Okay, welcome back. So today I'm going to be talking about Amos. I started the rise of prophecy in Israel, and I said that under that topic, they can ask you to discuss Amos' message to the Israelites, Hosea's message, and Isaiah's message, and you should relate it to nation building. Alright, so I'm going to start with Amos' message. And one thing about Amos, one thing that is peculiar about Amos is that God actually sent him to the Israelites and also sent him to the neighboring nations of Israelites, nations surrounding Israelites. So let's just get right into it so the video won't be too long. Alright, so Amos, whose name means burden bearer, stands first among the writing prophets, an older contemporary of Hosea and Micah. Alright, so Amos' name means burden bearer, and he's actually a writing prophet, and he stands amongst Hosea and Micah. So he made his living as a fruit grower. If you checked the Bible, it's written there that he's a dresser of sycamore tree. So more like you can call him a farmer indirectly. So he made his living as a fruit grower and a manager of shepherds in the small village of Tekoa. So what I wanted to pick from here is that Amos wasn't a prophet, so to say, like someone that is a prophet literally. What he does is a dresser of sycamore tree, and he's based in Tekoa. What I mean by he's not a prophet, so to say, that like the likes of Elijah, what Elijah does was being a prophet. He doesn't have any other thing attached to it. When he called Elisha was also on the farm, but he left it. But Amos has his job that he was doing. You get my point? And he lived in Tekoa, about 6 miles south of Bethlehem. So he was instructed by God to go to the northern nation of Israel and to warn them that God would no longer spare his judgment. So God instructed him to go to the northern nation of Israel and to warn them. Amos courageously went, though he had not been trained in the prophetic schools of his day. He withstood the condemnation of the high priest at the temple at Bethel and the unbelief of his audience. What I'm trying to say here is that Amos actually wasn't trained. Remember about the story of Elisha and Elijah. They had the school of prophets where they trained prophet. Amos wasn't a trained prophet. You get, but he still withstood condemnation of the high priest, because it's just like God sending you to a place, a church where there is a pastor, and you went there to go and say things. There is no way that people will not condemn you like that. But Amos withstood all those condemnation, and then he delivered God's message. So having heard from God, Amos saw it as a duty to share the message. So his ministry occurred during the reigns of Uzziah of Judah and Jeroboam II of Israel. So you know that at a point after the death of Solomon, God divided Israel into two. We have the southern Israel and the northern Israel. Alright, so now the northern Israel is actually ruled by Jeroboam. And then southern Israel was ruled by, the first person that ruled over southern Israel was Rehoboam, the son of Solomon. You get? Alright, so I might have to create a class on that particular topic about how the kingdom was divided. Alright, so that's a story for another day. So this was an era of political and economic stability in the two kingdoms. Okay, so what I'm saying is that this particular period where God sent Amos, it was a period where the two kingdoms were enjoying political and economic stability. Everything was going on fine. Israel and Judah managed a peaceful coexistence. There was no issue between them. They were not waging war against themselves. So we have territorial borders were expanded through successful military conquest against foreign foes. Commercial enterprise and agricultural production flourished. Now, the earliest prophets from Israel and Judah looked beyond the facade of the so-called Golden Age to the dry rot of social and moral decay in both Israel and Judah. What this means is that even though these two kingdoms were experiencing political and economic stability, the prophet actually looked beyond that. There was something that was going on that was wrong. Social and moral decay. Those guys were corrupt. They were corrupt. They were just acting like they are religious. But deep down what they were doing, they were wrong. And that's why God had to send Amos and some other prophets. So the major theme of Amos' message is social justice. The prophet condemned Israel for her inability to do right. Israelites were not doing right. The nations around them were not doing right, and God sent him to them. So Amos demonstrates that God hates violence and oppression of the weak. Hence, all people, Jews and Gentiles, will be held accountable for their sins. So from here, you can actually see a glimpse of what they did. Violence and oppression of the weak. And God said they are going to be held accountable for their sins. Though Amos was from Judah, he actually ministered in Bethel in Israel. Amos was from the southern Israel, but God sent him to northern Israel as the neighboring nation. God actually sent him to the Judah, you get, but most of his message was more to the Israelites. So he was a prophet of social religion. He cried against injustice and inhuman treatment of the poor. He sees religion as what should be lived out in the society. People are not living what they believe in. They are just doing eye service. Alright. So Amos fiercely castigated corruption and social injustice among Israel's pagan neighbors, Israel itself and Judah. So like I said, Amos actually was sent to Israel's neighbor and Judah. He asserted God's absolute sovereignty over man, and he predicted the imminent destruction of Israel and Judah. So he's saying that the judgment of God is very near. That's his message to them. After preaching at Bethel, a famous shrine under the special protection of Jeroboam II, Amos was ordered to leave the country by Jeroboam's priest Amaziah. Alright, so that's like an introduction to Amos, and then kind of introduction to the message God sent him to deliver to the people. So if you are still watching and you have not yet subscribed to my channel, kindly press subscribe button by the way. And please, if you found this useful, kindly share with your friends so they can also learn. And if there's any topic you'd like me to treat, you'd like me to teach, kindly comment below. Alright? And also, I remember I said that this topic has to do with the message of this prophet and the relationship to nation building. So the part of nation building, I have it in my textbook that I wrote. So if you need the textbook, check the description box to make order for the textbook, because in this video I will not be discussing the nation building part, just their message to the country, but the nation building part is actually in the textbook, so make sure you get yours. Alright, let's get right back into it. So let's look at Amos' message to the nation around Israel. Alright, Amos' last prophecy was against Israel. Before this judgment of Israel, Amos prophesied against Damascus, also known as Aram, Gaza, also known as Philistia, Tyre, also known as Phoenicia. We have Edom, we have Ammon, we have Moab and Judah. That's about 7 nations that God sent Amos to. So let's look at their offense. What did they do that made God send Amos to them? Alright, the people of Aram continually besieged Israel, attempting to take their land. So these people, their sin is actually against Israel, and you know that Israel has God's heart. So they continually besieged Israel, and they attempt to take Israel's land. Philistia raided Israelites and took land, people, and possessions. So these ones, God will punish them for raiding Israel and taking their lands, their people, and their possessions. Phoenicia broke their covenant of brotherhood with the Israelites, established during the reigns of kings David and Solomon. Alright, they kidnapped and sold the people of Israel as slaves. So their sin also was against the Israelites. They kidnapped the Israelites and sold the people of Israel as slaves. So during the reign of David and Solomon, they actually had they signed a treaty with Phoenicia, also known as Tyre. During those building projects, they actually exchanged things, and they had an agreement, like a covenant. So going against that covenant by kidnapping the people, God is so angry about it. Alright, so let's go to Edom. He prophesied against Edom, their blood relative through Esau. They harbored and fed their anger against the people of Jacob because Esau did not receive his birthright or blessing from his father Isaac. The Edomites took any chance they received to attack and not help the Israelites. So for the Edomites, also they sin against Israelites. They are still angry because of Jacob took Esau's blessing. So because of that, every chance they get to attack, they attack the Israelites. Alright, and then they don't help them. Okay. he prophesied against Ammon, who were blood relative of Israel through Lot. So Ammon is a nation that is actually related to Israel through Lot. You know Lot, Abraham's nephew. So the Ammonites were discontent with the land God gave to them. Remember when Abraham and Lot were separating? Abraham told Lot to pick where he wanted, and he did. So the Ammonites were discontent with the land God gave them. When you read that part of the Bible, it was recorded that the land that Lot chose wasn't even as good as what was left for Abraham. So they were not happy with the land, and then they wanted more and expressed displeasure. The Israelites did not give them the land the Amorites had taken from them by force. The Amorites wanted more than the Lord apportioned to them. So them, I think their thing here is that they are not contented with what they want. Discontent. They didn't appreciate God enough, and God decided to punish them for their sin. Then Amos also prophesied against Moab. Lot was their common relative to Israel as well. So the Moabites showed disrespect toward the leaders of God's people and towards God. So these ones, they disrespected God and also God's people. Their king burned the bones of a king of Edom. Their king, the king of Moab, burned the bones of a king of Edom. He disrespected God's anointed leader. King Mesha of the Moabites sacrificed his oldest son to a false god, Chemosh. That's another one, idolatry. He did not consider life sacred and did anything to keep his God appeased. I think what you're going to do to be able to get this correctly is pause the video, write out these sins, all the things that they did, their offense, so that when you are done watching the video, you can go back to your note and learn them well. All right, so the king did not consider life sacred and did anything to keep his God appeased. He is ready to do anything to keep his God appeased. And then King Mesha disrespected people from the line of Abraham and people in general. So Moabites, their sin was more through their king, burning the bones of the king of Edom, sacrificing his own son to a god. That's disrespectful to God. All right, so Amos prophesied against Judah. Already know Judah, southern Israel. So with Amos' prophecy against them, he tightened the net on Israel. He brought the rope weaving around Israel inwards to finish his final 2 strokes of the weave. So God charged Judah with rejecting him and his laws and statutes. So Judah's sin is that Judah rejected God. They allowed the lies of their father to lead them astray to follow other gods. You know that Judah actually was together with Israelites before they separated, and they actually experienced God. They know who God is. They know what God can do. You get, God actually delivered them from Egyptians. So God didn't expect them to even act like that at all, and they now rejected God's law and statute. So with the first 3 nations prophecies, Amos showed they committed crimes against humanity. So when we're talking about nations that committed crime against humanity, we have Aram, we have Philistia, we have Phoenicia. So you can just go back to check their offense again. And then with the next 3, it shows their sins were crimes against humanity and God. So probably they're asking your exam and you're just concluding it. You can conclude it that way, that that the first 3 nations, their offense was against humanity. The next 3 nations, their offense was against humanity and God. And then Judah, Amos said, committed crimes against God. Judah's sin was against God. That makes it 7. So they knew God and his laws. They had history with God and still worshipped false gods. So because they knew the Lord, their crimes were primarily against the Lord, and he judged them more strictly. Alright, so that will be all for this class. Please turn on the notification button so that when I drop the remaining part, because I'm still going to explain Amos' message to the Israelites. So make sure you turn on the notification button so that you can be notified when I drop it, okay? Let me know if you found it useful. Thank you.